5 years after our breakup, I got an email from my ex. He said he'd scheduled it like a time capsule. I opened it thinking it was an apology, but instead, I found proof that he'd destroyed my dream job just to stop me from leaving him. I remember that morning like a glitch in time. It was raining outside, the kind of Seattle drizzle that makes the world look half asleep. I had just made my coffee, trying to convince myself that today would be ordinary. No surprises, no memories, just me, my cat Luna, and the sound of rain tapping against my apartment window. Then my laptop chimed. One new email. The subject line made my heart stutter. Scheduled message from Alex. Alex, a name I hadn't seen in years. For a second, I thought it was spam, or maybe a trick from one of those time capsule apps we'd once joked about, but the sender address was real. His address, the same one he used when we were still together, 5 years ago. I hovered over it for a full minute before clicking. Inside was a short message, only one line before the scroll bar appeared. If you're reading this, it means 5 years have passed since I set this up. I guess I wanted to leave something behind, a truth I couldn't tell you back then. My chest tightened. I could almost hear his voice, calm, careful, the way he always spoke when he was about to say something that mattered. We'd broken up on a Tuesday night in 2020, right before I was supposed to move to San Francisco for my dream job at Luminatech. I still remember that night vividly, the fight, the tears, the words I couldn't take back, and then he walked away. I thought it was over because of distance, because we were young and scared and selfish. But now, 5 years later, this email sat in front of me like a ghost. My fingers trembled as I scrolled. The message went on, paragraphs of thoughts, regrets, and confessions. But I couldn't read past the first few lines. My eyes blurred with a sudden wave of unease. What truth could he possibly need 5 years to say? Luna meowed softly beside me as if sensing my hesitation. I minimized the window, took a deep breath, and stared at my reflection in the dark screen. I wasn't the same girl he left behind. Back then I was naive, a 20-something with big dreams and a bigger heart. Now I'd learned to live without him. Or so I thought. I reopened the email. The next line read, "You never got that job offer because of me." The room went silent. Even the rain seemed to stop. My pulse thudded in my ears. What did he mean by that? I scrolled again and saw something that made my stomach twist. Attached to the email was a file named thenighteverythingchanged.pdf. And right then, I realized this wasn't just a message. It was a confession, and I wasn't ready for what came next. What would you do if you received a scheduled email from your ex 5 years after your breakup? For a long minute, I just stared at the screen. The attachment pulsed like a heartbeat, silent, waiting, dangerous. Thenighteverythingchanged.pdf. That night had lived in my head for years. The shouting, the glass breaking, the words we couldn't take back. He'd said, "You care more about your career than about us." I'd said, "Maybe that's true." Then I left, suitcase half-packed, heart torn. I never got the job offer email that week. I thought maybe I hadn't been good enough. Now, with one small sentence, "You never got that job offer because of me," my entire past began to blur. I downloaded the file. My hands were trembling so badly I almost dropped my mug. Luna watched from the counter, tail flicking as if warning me not to open it. The PDF loaded slowly, my Wi-Fi struggling against the morning storm. When it finally appeared, I saw the first page, a single paragraph in his handwriting, scanned. "Maya, if you're reading this, I know you hate me. But please understand, what I did because I was scared. Scared of losing you to a world bigger than me. You were meant for more, and I couldn't stand that truth." My throat tightened. I scrolled further. Screenshots, emails, an entire thread between him and someone named HR@luminatech.com. The date, 2 days before I was supposed to hear back about the job. The messages showed him pretending to be me. He'd written to them saying I was declining the offer due to personal reasons. And then, another message from the company confirming receipt. My breath caught. I couldn't blink, couldn't even move. He'd stopped my future, on purpose. I pushed my chair back, standing up so fast it toppled. My heart was hammering. I wanted to scream, but no sound came out. It was like reliving the breakup all over again. Except this time, I finally understood what truly ended us. It wasn't distance. It was control. I walked to the window, watching the gray clouds gather over the Space Needle. The city felt colder than ever. 5 years of healing, therapy, self-forgiveness, all rewritten by one digital confession. Part of me wanted to delete it, pretend I'd never read it. But another part, the part that had spent years wondering what if, needed answers. I sat back down and kept scrolling. The last line of his note read, "If I could take it back, I would. But maybe this truth will finally set you free, set me free." Number. It trapped me all over again. And somewhere deep down, I knew. This wasn't the full truth yet. The real story was still buried inside that file. Would you confront an ex who admitted to sabotaging your dream job years later? I stared at the last line of his note until the letters blurred. Maybe this truth will finally set you free. Freedom? No, it didn't feel like freedom. It felt like falling all over again. Only this time, there was no one waiting to catch me. I closed the file, but the words burned into my mind. He pretended to be me. He'd written to my dream company and declined the offer I'd worked my whole life for. While I'd been crying, doubting myself, thinking I'd failed, he'd already decided my future for me. I tried to breathe, but it came out in short, shallow bursts. My reflection in the window looked like someone else. Eyes wide, face pale, the ghost of a woman I used to be. 5 years ago, I thought Alex loved me, the kind of love that felt safe, warm, certain. We met at a coffee shop in Capitol Hill. I spilled my latte, he laughed, offered napkins, and somehow we never stopped talking. He was charming, patient, thoughtful, the kind of man who remembered your coffee order and your mother's birthday. But now, as I sat there reading his confession, I saw a different man, someone who smiled while hiding things behind his eyes. Someone who said, "I just want what's best for you," when he really meant, "I want you to stay." I reopened the email and scrolled again, forcing myself to keep reading. I knew that job would take you away. San Francisco was everything you wanted. I thought if I could just make you stay a little longer, you'd realize you belonged here with me. Each word hit like a punch. I whispered to myself, you didn't let me choose. I could almost see him sitting across from me, saying those same words he used to repeat when we argued. I did it for us. But love built on control isn't love. It's fear wearing a kind smile. I took another sip of my cold coffee. The bitterness felt fitting. There were more attachments, screenshots of texts he'd never sent, unsent drafts addressed to me, even a photo of us from the night before the breakup. My hair was messy, his arm was around me, and we were laughing like we had forever ahead of us. Beneath the photo, he'd written, I didn't know this would be our last picture. I wish I told you then that I couldn't lose you. So I made sure I didn't. I closed the laptop. My hands were shaking. It wasn't a confession of love, it was a confession of control, guilt, and selfishness disguised as regret. But one question wouldn't stop echoing in my mind. If he was brave enough to admit this, what else was he hiding? If someone you once loved confessed to secretly controlling your life out of love, could you ever believe their apology? I didn't sleep that night. The sound of rain tapping the windows turned into a rhythm I couldn't escape. My mind kept replaying his words over and over until they became part of the storm outside and the storm inside me. I opened my laptop again around 2 a.m. I told myself I just wanted to delete the email, but I didn't. Instead, I opened it again. There was a second attachment I hadn't noticed before, a ZIP file labeled inboxbackup.zip. My chest tightened. For a moment, I hovered over it, thinking, no, I can't keep doing this. But curiosity has a cruel way of sounding like closure. I clicked. It opened into dozens of saved emails, drafts, messages, even old photos. Most were things we'd exchanged years ago, plans for our future, flight itineraries, late-night jokes. But buried at the bottom was one message thread I didn't recognize. To maya.j.turner@gmail.com. From Alex Miller at lumina.tech. Subject, about your interview. The date made my blood run cold, the day before my final interview at Lumina Tech. Except, I never received this email. The message read, Hi Maya, this is Alex from HR. Just wanted to confirm that we've received your documents. Unfortunately, due to recent hiring freezes, we'll have to postpone your offer. Sorry for the delay, fake. He'd created a fake HR email to make me think the process was over. I pressed my hand against my mouth. The betrayal wasn't just emotional anymore. It was deliberate, technical, cruel. I remembered that week. I'd been sitting in our old apartment, crying because no one had replied from the company. He'd held me, whispered, maybe it's just not meant to be. And I'd believed him. I scrolled to the next message in the thread. He'd even replied to himself, pretending to be me again, just to make it look convincing. It was like finding digital fingerprints of manipulation. Luna jumped onto the table, pawing at my arm as if to pull me away. I shut the laptop and took a long, shaking breath. Everything I'd built after that breakup, the resilience, the healing, the new life I'd created, felt like it had been built on ashes of a lie. I got up, paced the room, tried to breathe, but one thought kept echoing in my mind. If he had control over my job emails, what else did he control back then? The idea terrified me, because suddenly I wasn't sure how much of my past had ever really belonged to me. If you discovered proof that someone manipulated your life behind your back, would you expose them or just walk away for peace? By sunrise, the storm had stopped, but inside me it hadn't. My apartment looked the same, quiet, clean, filled with soft morning light, yet everything felt altered. I couldn't look at my laptop without feeling sick. That device had become a doorway to a past I thought I'd buried. I made coffee, but it tasted wrong. Everything did. I kept replaying the same memory, Alex holding me while I cried over losing that job. He'd been so gentle, whispering, maybe this is a sign. Maybe life's keeping you where you're meant to be. And I'd believed it because I wanted to believe him. Now I knew he'd been comforting me for a wound he caused. I told myself to delete the files, block his email, pretend it never happened. But my heart wanted something my brain refused to admit. Answers. I needed to know why. I searched his name online, half expecting nothing, half hoping he'd disappeared off the planet. But his LinkedIn popped up first. Alex Miller, product director, Lumina Tech Seattle branch. The same company. He'd gotten a promotion there last year. I froze. My breath caught in my throat. He'd stayed. He'd thrived. In the very place I was supposed to start my dream. The irony hit like a punch. While I spent years rebuilding myself, he'd climbed higher, carrying the life that should have been mine. I clicked on his profile photo. He looked older, more polished, confident. But behind the smile, all I could see was deceit. My cursor hovered over the message button. I hesitated. What would I even say? Hey, remember the job you stole from me? Thanks for the trauma, number. I needed something real, something that would make him face what he'd done. So I opened a blank email and started typing. Alex, I got your message. I read everything. I don't know if this was your idea of closure, but it's not enough. I deserve the truth, all of it. Why did you do it? And what else did you take from me? I hit send before I could stop myself. The instant the message left my outbox, I felt both terrified and relieved, like I'd just thrown a stone into still water, waiting for the ripples to hit. Hours passed. I checked my inbox every few minutes. Nothing. By evening, I convinced myself he wouldn't respond. Maybe the confession had been scheduled automatically and he was long gone. Then, at 9:03 p.m., my phone buzzed. One new email. From Alex Miller. Subject, you weren't supposed to find out this way. My hands went cold. He was still there. And he'd seen my message. If your ex suddenly replied to your message after a betrayal like this, would you open it, or ignore it forever? I stared at the subject line for what felt like hours. You weren't supposed to find out this way. Every word pulled at me, whispering that whatever waited inside would break something I wasn't ready to lose. But curiosity, that dangerous little flame, it wouldn't die. I clicked. Maya, if you're reading this, it means the email reached you. I set it to send years ago, but I never imagined it would actually find its way into your hands. You were never supposed to know what I did. Not like this. But maybe it's time. I swallowed hard and kept reading. The night you got the Lumina Tech offer, I panicked. Not because I didn't want you to succeed, God, I wanted that for you, but I was scared. Scared that if you left, I'd lose you forever. I was insecure, jealous, selfish, all of it. I thought if I could keep you here a little longer, I'd have time to convince you that Seattle, that we were enough. I called my friend at Lumina, he owed me a favor, and I asked him to pull your name from the shortlist. I told myself it was temporary, that you'd get another chance. But then I watched your face crumble when the rejection came in, and I knew what I'd done. I tried to tell you 100 times, but every day that passed made it harder. You were healing, rebuilding, and I didn't deserve to destroy that again. My vision blurred, the words melted together. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just need you to know that I loved you in the most broken, cowardly way possible. Alex, I dropped my phone. My chest burned, my pulse thundered in my ears. He said he did it because he loved me? Number. Love doesn't cage you. Love doesn't take away the one thing you fought your whole life for. I replayed our last fight in my mind, the night before I left him. He'd stood there in the kitchen, his voice trembling as he said, "You'll forget me once you go." People like you always do. I'd thought it was insecurity. I hadn't known it was guilt. The worst part? A piece of me understood him. Not forgave, but understood. He'd been terrified of losing the only thing that made him feel safe, me. But I couldn't carry his fear anymore. I needed to face him, in person. Seattle suddenly felt too small, too full of ghosts. And yet, it was exactly where I needed to go to end this story for good. So I booked a ticket. Tomorrow, I'd walk into Luminatech, not as the girl he once loved, but as the woman ready to take back her truth. If you discovered your ex sabotaged your dream out of love, would you confront them or let karma handle it? Seattle looked exactly the same, but I didn't. The rain still painted silver lines down the windows, the coffee shop still buzzed with caffeine and code, but I wasn't the girl who once dreamed here. I was older now, sharper, steadier, carrying the weight of betrayal and the will to reclaim my story. The Luminatech building stood tall in South Lake Union, a glass tower I'd memorized years ago from photos I never got to see in person. I took a deep breath before stepping inside, my heart pounding like thunder trapped in my chest. At the front desk, the receptionist greeted me with a polite smile. "Hi, I'm here to see Alex Miller," I said, my voice steadier than I expected. "Do you have an appointment?" she asked. "No," I replied, "but tell him. Maya Collins is here." Her eyes widened just slightly. Maybe she recognized the name. She made the call, spoke in a low voice, then looked back up at me. "He'll be right down." Right down, just like that. I turned toward the glass wall, staring at the city reflected in it. Two versions of me layered together. The one who lost everything and the one who came back to take it back. Then I heard it, his voice. "Maya." I turned, and there he was. Alex looked older, more lines around his eyes, his hair a bit shorter, a little gray near the temples, but that same familiar warmth flickered in his expression, followed by a guilt he couldn't hide. "Maya," he said again, stepping closer. "I didn't think you'd actually—" "Come here," I finished. "Yeah, I didn't think so either." We stood there for a moment, two people bound by something ugly and unfinished. "I read your email," I said finally. "Every word." He exhaled, the sound shaky. "I wanted to tell you back then. I swear. But every time I saw how much that rejection hurt you, You chose silence," I interrupted. "You let me hate myself for losing something you took away." His shoulders dropped. I was scared you'd never forgive me. I almost laughed, but it came out broken. "You're right. I won't. But I needed to see your face when I said that." He looked down, eyes glistening. "You have every right to hate me." "I don't hate you, Alex," I said quietly. "I hate what you did. And I hate that I let your love define my worth for so long." For a moment, the world went silent. No footsteps, no voices, just the sound of rain against glass. Then I turned toward the elevator. "Goodbye, Alex." He reached out, but I didn't stop. As the elevator doors closed, I saw my reflection again. No longer fractured, no longer afraid. I was finally free. If you were Maya, would you have confronted Alex face to face or walked away without giving him that closure? The elevator doors slid open and I stepped out into the gray Seattle rain, my heart still trembling but strangely lighter. I had finally faced the man who broke me, and for the first time in years, I didn't feel small. I walked for blocks without caring where I was going. The city hummed around me, people rushing, cars splashing through puddles, the smell of coffee drifting through the air. It felt like closure and rebirth all at once. When I finally ducked into a cafe to breathe, I opened my laptop just out of habit. My inbox was still open, and there it was, a new message. From Luminatech Careers subject. "We'd like to reconnect." My stomach flipped. I clicked. "Dear Maya Collins, we recently reviewed past applicant files during an internal audit. We came across your name from 5 years ago, and we're surprised to see your qualifications. Our leadership team would like to discuss a potential opportunity with you. Please let us know if you're available for a call this week. HR Department, Luminatech Seattle." I sat there frozen, my mind racing. An internal audit? After 5 years? Was this fate, or was Alex behind it? I almost deleted it out of instinct. Too much pain tied to that company, too many ghosts, but something inside whispered, "Don't run this time." So I replied, "Thank you for reaching out. I'm in Seattle. I'd be open to a meeting." Within minutes, I got a response confirming an interview slot for the next morning. I stared at the screen, half laughing, half crying. The timing was unreal. I'd come here for closure, and instead, I'd been handed the very dream that once slipped away. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept thinking about Alex, whether he'd had anything to do with this. Maybe guilt had finally pushed him to make it right. But part of me hoped this was bigger than him, that the universe was rewriting the story on my behalf. The next morning, I stood outside the same building again, the same glass tower, only this time I wasn't trembling. I walked into the lobby, head high, heart calm. The receptionist smiled at me again. "Welcome back, Ms. Collins," she said, and those words hit deep. During the meeting, the director, an older woman with kind eyes, looked through my portfolio. "Maya, I've read your old application notes. I have to say, it's rare we find someone this skilled who never got a fair chance." I blinked. "You know about that?" She nodded. "Let's just say we discovered a few things that shouldn't have happened back then. We're correcting that now. My throat tightened. I didn't ask for details. I didn't need to. I already knew. For the first time in years, I smiled. Not for anyone else, but for me. If fate suddenly gave you a second chance at the dream someone stole, would you take it or walk away to start something new? When I walked out of Luminatech that afternoon, I wasn't shaking anymore. The rain had stopped, and sunlight spilled across the glass towers, making the whole city shimmer. It felt like Seattle was smiling at me, all like it remembered the girl I used to be and was finally welcoming the woman I'd become. The interview had gone better than I ever imagined. They'd offered me a senior position in product design with full creative control and a role far beyond what I applied for all those years ago. But I didn't say yes. Not yet. I sat by the waterfront, staring at the ferries moving slowly across Elliott Bay, the smell of salt and coffee in the air. For years, I'd believed this job was my destiny, the one that got away. But now, holding that offer in my hands, I realized something I hadn't before. It wasn't just about getting my dream back. It was about deciding what that dream meant to me now. 5 years ago, I would have said yes without thinking. Desperate to prove myself, desperate to belong. But I wasn't that girl anymore. I'd built a new life in Portland, started my own small design studio, created something from the ruins Alex left behind. Still, I wanted to see how it felt, to walk through that office as someone who chose to be there, not someone begging to be let in. So I emailed back, "Thank you for the offer. I'd like to visit the workspace before making my decision." They agreed instantly. The next morning, I walked through Luminatech's sleek hallways, all glass, light, and quiet hums of innovation. People nodded, smiled, whispered my name as I passed. Some knew the story. Others just sensed something different about me. When I entered the design floor, I felt it. A pulse of inspiration. The same fire that once made me love this world. That's when I saw him. Alex, standing near the back, speaking with someone, his badge clipped to his shirt. He looked up and froze when he saw me. For a moment, neither of us moved. Then he smiled, small and uncertain. "Maya," he said softly, like the word itself was a memory. "You came back." "I did," I said, "but not for you." His smile faltered, and I meant it, every syllable. I wasn't here to fix what he broke. I was here to reclaim what I built. "I got an offer," I said simply. "A good one." He nodded, eyes wet. "You deserve it. Always did." I took a deep breath, then smiled. "You're right. I do." And I walked past him, feeling the ground steady beneath me. The ghosts were finally fading. This wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about rising on my own. Would you accept the same dream job from the company that once rejected you, or build something entirely new from scratch? The following week felt like a quiet sunrise after years of storm. Luminatech officially extended the offer. Generous salary, full creative freedom, relocation support. Everything I once prayed for was right there in my inbox, wrapped neatly with my name on it. But this time, I didn't rush to say yes. I took my time. I walked through Pike Place Market with a coffee in hand, listening to the city's heartbeat. Every corner of Seattle reminded me of something. Our first date at Cary Park, late-night arguments on rainy streets, the job offer that never came. But it no longer hurt. The memories were still there, but they no longer owned me. That afternoon, I visited one last place before leaving, the bench overlooking Gasworks Park. It was where Alex and I once sat, dreaming about our future. He was already there when I arrived, almost like he knew I'd come. "Maya," he said softly, standing up. "I wasn't sure if you'd—" "I came to say goodbye," I interrupted, smiling faintly. He looked at me, guilt written across every line of his face. "I didn't ask them to contact you," he said quickly. "The company's audit was real. I swear I didn't interfere." "I know," I said, "but I also know you've been carrying this weight for years. You can stop now." He blinked, confused. "You're not angry?" I was. "For a long time. But anger kept me tied to you, and I'm done being tied to anything that hurt me." He nodded slowly, eyes glistening. "You're stronger than I ever was." "No," I whispered. "I just finally learned the difference between love and control." We stood in silence, the wind brushing past, carrying away the last of our unspoken words. Then he said, "Are you taking the job?" I smiled, looking out at the skyline. "No, I'm starting my own firm, in Portland. It's small now, but it's mine. And it's growing." He looked proud. Sad, but proud. "You'll do great." "I already am," I said softly. We hugged, not as lovers, not even as friends, but as two people who finally understood how to let go. When I walked away, I didn't look back. The sky was painted gold and pink over Lake Union, and for the first time in years, I felt completely weightless. That night, on the flight back to Portland, I drafted my final email to Luminatech. "Thank you for the offer. I appreciate it deeply, but I've decided to continue building something of my own. With gratitude, Maya Collins." I hit send, smiled to myself, and closed the laptop. 5 years ago, I lost everything because someone feared my wings. Now I'd built them stronger, and I was flying again. Would you forgive the person who cost you your dream if it led you to build an even better one on your own?